See, we've become so desensitized because what Satan is going to do during this time is make the worship of him normality. So what we're seeing right now is a subtle move to satanic worship. This is why the first thing you have to do is destroy, watch this, destroy the imago Dei. Because when you destroy the image of God, there is no God now for you to worship except you. So what we're seeing now is a self-worship in culture. Notice how everyone is saying, well, you can't say anything that would offend me, but they're saying things to offend you. And what they're saying is, I love my sin. You speak against my sin. You're speaking against who I am. And now we've relegated sin that where we're placing into law certain sin categories and calling sin now human rights. So what we've done is we've completely changed the concept of how God has created his natural order to something that is unnatural. Again, think about it. In order for Satan to come and take over, there must be a destruction or a complete removal of any true religion. And that's what's taking place.
Yo, welcome to the show, everybody. We appreciate everyone tuning in and pressing play. Thank you for joining us for another week of news, another week to hear the word. Hope everyone's having a blessed day. How you feeling today, Des?
Feeling great, feeling blessed. Thankful to have another day. We just came back not too many days ago from visiting our father. He's in good health. His wife is in good health for the most part. I just felt good to bring my wife and my son down there again, and just to see your dad. A lot of people don't have that, so it's a blessing.
Yeah, I think I know it's because we're here on borrowed time. We don't know when is our time to check out. Yep. And I was speaking to my father on the phone. I told my father, I'm like, hey, because we did our Bible study yesterday. And I told him, I just want to let you know I'm not celebrating Father's Day, but I am going to send you a box. So just send me your sizes and stuff. And I say, I'm not celebrating any of the holidays. And then he was just like, I understand. He was like, because it's not even a guarantee that I'm going to even make it to that day. Right. And I say, that's facts. Like if you want to if you want to call your father, your mother, or you want to give them a gift, go ahead and do it now. Right. You do it now. You don't know when people are going to check out, and you don't have to wait to a specific day to say, this is when I'm supposed to do this. You do it today. You do it whenever you get a chance. Take your mother out to dinner, take your father out to dinner, or call. You don't need a holiday to validate that. You don't need Christmas to validate that or anything.
That's why you got to say, Lord willing, if I see you again. Or,
exactly.
Our life is merely a vapor. Here today, gone tomorrow. We don't know when that day will be. So you always got to cherish every day and every moment with your family members. Just being on this earth. It's a blessing every time you wake up.
For sure. And I have a scripture to get us started. And this is coming out of Romans 8 of the New King James Version. Romans 8 verse 12 and 13. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, these are sons of God. So guys, we just have to keep practicing being led by the Spirit, practicing being in the Spirit, practicing our faith, staying in the word, transforming our mind, our heart, and not conforming to the flesh, listening to the flesh, adhering to the flesh, letting the flesh lead us. For if we let this flesh lead us, we will die. You know what I mean? And we have to start off by being led by the Spirit. We have to practice being holy. You know what I mean? Practice being holy. That is the goal. We practice being holy, man, we will be okay. We will be okay.
Amen.
And but yeah, I just have that, and so yeah, we all have to get on it. And if you are a Christian, if you call yourself a Christian or a follower of Christ, please transform your mind, your spirit. You cannot be the same person inwardly and just do different actions on the outside. That inward you has to be transformed. You have to think differently. You have to walk differently. You have to talk differently. You have to treat people differently. You can't be in church, with a same dirty and evil old mind that you have. You know what I mean? That's why they call church people hypocrites. Yeah. You have to transform yourself, and I'll leave it at that. But without further ado, we're gonna hop into some news. We can start off light. And ease our way into things. This is something that I have been wanting us to mention for, the past 2 weeks. But did you know that, okay, so there is a Netflix special out, and it's about Cleopetra. And, Egypt has accused Netflix of misrepresenting history by casting a black woman to play Cleopatra, its most famous historical figure in a new series. Now, Queen Cleopatra, which was released May 10th, was featuring Adele James in the lead role. People are having problems with that because they're saying that Cleopatra wasn't black. Now, the government statement issued Thursday marked an escalation in a feud that has sparked demands for the show's cancellation amid a broader debate over representation in a popular culture. So they're basically saying that they want it canceled because they're trying to say that she was not black. And they're upset about that. And they started a petition about that. But, the crazy thing is, people, different races played us in blackface all the time.
In which she was black, wasn't? I think she was just mixed, if anything, with the Greek guy. What was his name?
Her father?
Yeah. Was it like Mark Anthony or something like that?
Let's see.
One of them Greeks. One of them guys.
Let's see. Who is? Let's see.
It's like a African mixed with a white person.
Who was Cleopatra's father? Let's check that out. Yeah, they were like, nah, you can't. It looked like he was in Egypt. He was expelled from
a Roman.
Okay.
Or a Greek. What?
It looks like Cleopatra's father is expelled from Egypt in 51 BCE. He also, paternally, the son is returned to power by a Roman army. He dies later that year.
I think it was a Roman. Maybe it was.
Okay, but yeah, they are really upset about that. They wanted the show canceled. They didn't want to show her in that light.
The people that was over there were African people, Hamites. Those are the people that was running Egypt. They're trying to act like they were running Egypt, which those people there are Arabs. They say that they're Arabs, and when you go like watch videos of people that's in Cairo now, people that's still in Egypt now. The Arabs came in and took over and kicked the Africans out,
Yeah.
That's what happened, and now they're trying to take their history. They know most of those pharaohs were black, if not all of them. Were
of
Hamites,
course. Why do you think they were like chopping the nose off some of those statues out there? Look at the features and all that. Yeah.
The Sphinx and all that. Even the tablets and stuff, like they even the hieroglyphs and stuff. Like they changed it. They messing with everything, man. They want to erase the Hamites' histories, the African people history. They want to take away from that, and they know that they're Arabs. They don't even consider themselves to be African, which Egypt is in Africa. They're not that, bro.
Yep.
So we're not gonna allow them to take it away, man. She looked it like a sister. That's what she looked it like. She was, if anything, mixed, but she was a sister nonetheless. So they can be mad all they want. Don't nobody care, man.
So there was a mystery illness in Detroit. As a result, a kindergartner died. Detroit Elementary School has been closed until Monday for a deep cleaning after several students came down with a mysterious flu-like illness and a kindergartner died. Now, the boy experienced flu-like symptoms at first, but officials said the cause of his death last week hasn't been determined. Several other students were suffering from fever and vomiting this week, prompting officials to shut the school so it could be disinfected. Now, the Detroit Health Department is closely monitoring the situation at Marcus Garvey Academy and sent a team to review the school's disinfecting protocols. That is scary, at a school to have an outbreak. You have kids vomiting, fever, flu-like symptoms, and then a kindergartner died. Imagine sending your kids to school. I mean, so something is definitely starting to go around with that.
Hey, rest in peace.
Yeah, kindergartner. Yes, rest his soul.
Tonight, 25 children are sick, one is hospitalized, and one kindergartner has died, and a Detroit school and daycare are both closed because of this mystery illness.
25 children are sick, and one kindergartner at Garvey Academy has died. Tonight,
a look at troubling new data from the CDC. It reveals sexually transmitted infections are on the rise and also show no signs of slowing down. NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal joins us now on this. Hey, Dr. Syal, good to see you. So just how many cases are we seeing, and do we have any idea what is the reason for this uptick?
We're seeing about 2.5 million cases of chlamydia, of gonorrhea, and syphilis combined. That is up from last year, and it's continuing to rise. It's up about 7% over the last 5 years. And Savannah, the one we're really worried about here is syphilis. Syphilis it's an STI that can actually cause, if you get this during pregnancy, it could cause your baby to be born stillborn or dead. And it's an entirely preventable disease with something called penicillin, a common antibiotic. So
exciting news for family members of those with Alzheimer's disease. The University of South Florida's Bird Alzheimer's Institute will be studying the effects of coconut oil on mild to moderate cases of the disease. And they may have a doctor from Spring Hill and her efforts on behalf of her husband to thank for that. Dr. Mary Newport cherishes sweet moments like this. Her husband, Steve, has Alzheimer's, a brain-wasting disease that robs him of his ability to live his normal life.
He was 51 when he began having symptoms and 54 when he was officially diagnosed, and he started on Alzheimer medications at that point.
Dr. Newport says she didn't see much improvement.
By 2006, Steve was no longer able to do any accounting, simple math, or even a calculator.
Being a doctor, she did some research.
I found a medical food that was going to be coming out a year later. It's now called Axona. But when I digged for information, I found out that the main active ingredient was medium chain triglyceride oil, MCT oil. And I recognize this because of my profession. I'm a neonatologist, and we used to add this to the feedings of our premature newborns.
She learned MCT was extracted from coconut oil, so she calculated a dose equivalent to what was in the medical food and started giving it to her husband. The day before, this was Steve's drawing of a clock. 2 weeks later, Newport says he drew this. And these improvements came after a month.
His tremor disappeared. He came out much more alert in the morning. The animation returned to his face. His personality came back. Basically, what this is all about is that Alzheimer's is a type of diabetes of the brain.
She believes the coconut oil helps get more energy into brain cells. She went public with her theory, and emails and letters started pouring in. She
didn't really get affected by COVID, and they're like, damn it, we missed our opportunity.
Right.
It's like we really could have landed this, but we missed that one part. Let's do it again.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how it feels, right? And this is the thing that Bill Gates talks about. He just was in an interview where he talked about how, we need to get past part one of this, which is getting rid of the first pandemic, like close that down officially. So we close that narrative down, and then we move on to the second piece. Watch.
Well, we have to do two things at once. We have to bring this epidemic to an end, primarily by getting the vaccine out in large numbers to the entire world. And we have to make sure that we're ready because there will be another pandemic. And there's so many lessons about how we weren't prepared, how we should have handled things differently. And, when that's clearly in our mind, those investments need to be made.
And what his investments specifically is he talking about? Well, number one on his list is surveillance. He wants to spend $1 billion making sure that we have this infrastructure in place on surveillance. So we'd be watching everybody, how these vaccines are distributed, your movements, how it's all of it to be able to watch you. Here he is admitting that number one on this list, and it wouldn't cost as much as climate change legislation, $10 trillion. No, it'd be a lot less expensive, but number one on this list is surveillance for the next pandemic. Watch.
The cost of being ready for the next pandemic is not super large. It's not like climate change where, 10 trillion, 20 trillion, these are big numbers. A global surveillance capability would cost like $1 billion a year. The R&D that we need to do to get magic vaccines and diagnostics and therapeutics, that's less than $100 billion over the next decade. So, if we're rational, yes, the next time we'll catch it early, and it won't go global like it did this time.
Do you have any regrets about taking your own vision or the process with which you did take your own vision?
I don't have any regrets taking my vision. I believe I should have been born blind, and I'm happy the way I am. I do have some regrets about the way I did it, but in the end, I'm happy the way I am.
Dr. Phil, with all due respect to Jewel, but I am having a really hard time sitting so close to someone who traumatized herself, who damaged herself. We took an oath in medicine to help people. We see horrible tragedies every single day as doctors, and people who would give anything to go back and restore their vision, their health. My heart is beating out of my chest. I can't even make sense of the emotions I'm feeling, because to hear someone say, I've always felt I should be blind. Well, I've always felt I should be the Queen of England, but I'm not going out to become the Queen of England.
I know this, but doctors are not taught about vaccines in medical school. We are not taught what's in vaccines as far as the adjuvants. We are not taught how vaccines are manufactured as far as what kind of animals go into them. We are not taught the potential dangers of vaccination, and we are basically given a piece of paper that says when the vaccines are due and to give them.
Genetics.
It's 2 pages, by the way. No riders, no jokes, nothing, just very straightforward. You can read it. It's House Bill 1169 in Missouri. This has become the most contentious bill in Missouri history. The mRNA gene therapy type drugs, and by the way, when I say that, just for anybody that doesn't know, I have Moderna's documents. They call it a gene therapy. They've been working on it for more than at least 2 decades. So what they did was they went to the ag community. They went to Missouri Cattlemen's Association, the Missouri Corn Growers Association, Missouri Pork Association, Farm Bureau, soybean growers. They went to these guys and said, hey, we need you to oppose this. Now remember, the 2 largest holders of ag in this country are Bill Gates and the CCP.
The vaccine rollout is now a failure. They're not getting due to people like you and me and our friends. They're not able to get this material into people's veins with a needle. So now they'll go to Plan B and try to get it into our bodies with the food supply. The globalists don't want the United States to exist, let alone be strong. I'm looking at all these, food processing plants going up in fire and flames and trains derailing. I mean, this never happened before 2020 in the United States, vanishingly rare.
Doc P here, up here in north side of the Ohio River. Understand this. This country is under attack. Our food source is under attack. This is unconventional warfare stuff.
One man in Sugar Creek, Missouri, planted this garden in order to grow his own food. But now he must destroy it by tomorrow or face a fine thanks to a new city ordinance.
City of Sugar Creek passed this ordinance 3 days ago, restricting the use of agriculture on front yards. But this family believes that their garden is being unfairly targeted and is at the root of this issue.
There's a radish right there.
To say Nathan Athens loves his garden would be an understatement.
I spend all my free time out here. I don't know, I would probably say about 300 hours.
It's important for his family.
I want my family to know where their food's coming from. I don't want to have to go to the grocery store and worry about what was done to that food.
But neighbors and city officials don't see the garden the same way.
I don't know that there would have been a problem with that had the gardens been well kept. They weren't.
Last summer, Athens received a citation for the garden, which he says he complied with.
We did it. Completely we addressed it, we took care of it, we paid our citation.
But now there's a new ordinance on the books specifying where vegetable gardens can begin.
Food vegetation within 30 feet of the street, and it's all within 30 feet.
These DNA tests for ethnicity are entertainment value only.
William Gilliland is a biology professor at DePaul. He says DNA kits can be great for connecting family members and finding relatives, but the science for ethnicity testing isn't as concrete.
There's nothing that confident for ethnicity. There's no diagnostic nucleotide. You can say this person is from Europe, this person's from...
An anti-abortion clinic in Buffalo, anti-abortion pregnancy center allegedly was firebombed.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And I believe it was Arizona.
So anti-abortion basically meaning they were against abortion and their facility was
firebombed. Yeah.
Wow. Yep. And you said that was in Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yep. Wow.
Came in and firebombed, and they said we're gonna put an end to what you guys are doing.
We got you got something else?
Let's see, Christian persecution on the rise. They're saying at least 360 million Christians experience high levels of persecution and discrimination, 20 million higher than 2021. The group also estimates that the number of Christians killed for their faith rose to 5,898 in 2022, up from 4,761. So it's trending upwards. More people are being killed for their Christian faith,
especially out there in like Nigeria and Egypt.
Yeah.
Man, it's sad what's happening to the people out there, and some of them are being ran away from their homes. You have pastors being kidnapped, coming up dead. It's sad. It's sad what's happening, and even in China, you can't really you can't worship over there. You have to go somewhere else and worship. So
also, you remember it was like a mass shooting not too long ago. I guess somebody, like one of the guys drove like 2 hours away, and he came to like a supermarket and he killed a lot of people, maybe like 9 to 10 people. I think it was a white guy.
Was this in Texas?
I don't know, but his name is a guy that one of the guys that got killed in there his name was Aaron Salter. He was one of the guys killed in the mass shooting. He created a water-powered engine.
Oh, you're talking New York.
And had a patent pending days before he died. And then Porsche, after he died, Porsche came out with the same invention.
Yeah, saying they got something that run on water. No, yeah, I remember what you're talking about. It was a black guy, like he was a security guard, I believe, got killed in the Buffalo shooting at the supermarket, and he was creating engines that can run on water.
And then he got killed days after Porsche came out with the same thing.
It's videos. He has YouTube videos up of him showing the engines like running on water and stuff like that.
And the thing is,
many of us know that Aaron Salter Jr. was a hero in the Buffalo mass shooting. But how many of you guys knew that he was currently working on a water-powered engine? Aaron Salter Jr. was working as a security guard on May 14th when an 18-year-old opened fire on the shoppers that day. But how many of you guys know that a few days prior to that, supposedly he had perfected a water-powered engine that ran off hydrogen? In order to market this new product, he'd already created an LLC called AWS Hydrogen Technologies. There was also a patent that was issued under his name for the same process. Many people called him crazy, called the idea that he was killed for his technology crazy, and even said that what he was trying to do was impossible. 7 months later, Porsche releases the same technology. Now, is this a coincidence? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments.
The thing is, that's what type of thing they'll do. They kill inventors.
Yeah, because
so
you can't profit off that, and then they wouldn't be able to profit if people figure it out. Like,
they took his invention, but they don't want to give him the money. They don't want to break him off the bread because they think that'll be a lot of bread to give to one guy that just invented something.
True. Yeah.
Just like the other guy with the water engine that got killed.
Yeah. The one white guy that got killed.
They always do that.
Yeah, but I also think that they want to keep people from not being aware as well, because if people start figuring out, an engine just doesn't need gas to run off of, like I can use like some type of fruit. Like it was somebody that used like some type of fruit. I don't know what it was called that I was looking into that instead of fuel that their engine was running off of. You know what I mean?
It was a guy in Africa that was you remember he was making TVs come on without having a plug.
Oh yeah, and
they said he had several attempts on his life.
Yeah, it's like they again, like as Des is saying, they want to keep the profit, they want to keep the money.
Yeah,
and they want to keep us dumbed down to a certain point to where they don't realize like, hey, we have a lot of natural resources around us, and if we actually knew how to use them, we kind of really would need them for a lot. You know, we wouldn't need to spend our dollars with
Aaron Salter. They basically took his stuff and used it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think it was necessarily that they were trying to hide the invention, because BMW came out with it. You know?
But I think they already had something like that in the works from when the white guy had the invention of running something off water.
Yeah, but
I just think they don't want a normal person to come out with it.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't want to break out the bread.
Yeah,
like he got it.
Or they probably came to him like, "Hey, sell us your patent." He probably was like, "Nah."
Yeah, that's
what I mean.
He said, "I want to work with these car companies."
Yeah.
Like, but nah, we're not working with you.
Yeah, that's how they'll come to you and say like, "Hey, do you want to partner up?"
It's allegedly, it's a conspiracy theory, but it just seemed like a lot of the people that come up with these inventions, they automatically they come up missing, they die of poison, they get killed. What's the chances that you have a patent pending and somebody come there and gun down that many people?
Exactly.
And get you.
I agree. There is a Utah biotech company that has implanted brain chips in more than 30 people, and its founder wants to treat blindness, paralysis, and depression. So we have BlackRock Neurotech, based in Salt Lake City, has the grand ambition of treating physical paralysis, blindness, and deafness, and depression. Now, the chip known as Neuroport Array allows people to control robotic arms and wheelchairs, play video games, and even feel sensations. It works by using nearly 100 microneedles that attach to the brain and read electrical signals produced by someone's thoughts. More than 36 people have so far received it. The device was first implanted in a human in 2004. Now, company leaders hope to bring it to the market soon, announcing in 2021. They announced it in 2021, so now they're aiming for next year. But this is something that is definitely on the books.
Biotech company implants brain chips in 50 people. The chip, known as Neuroport Array, is manufactured by BlackRock Neurotech. You want BlackRock to have a device implanted in your brain? Well, you can now if you live in Utah. If you could have an arm that's mechanical but controlled by your brain, I think that's kind of cool. What it's going to be used for, however, will be brain surveillance. This will be used as a way to make people happy when they shouldn't be happy. You're having a blast. You're in love with that person that you should hate. They can remove part of your brain to make you not believe in God. And to
Put a microchip in my arm, and it's the best thing ever. This chip, it's a powerhouse. It's got everything I need. My credit card, my ID, my medical info, and even my keys. And when it's time for groceries, you just tap your wrist and bam! Transaction done. It's like magic. In a medical emergency, it can save my life. Experts can easily identify me and my medical history. I feel like a sci-fi character, and I'm loving it. This amazing chip is totally free. That's right, no
will not be held in your hand. And it won't be on your face either. Sorry, this is my wife. Hello?
Hey babe, are you with Ted?
Yeah, I'm on the red circle right now, actually.
Oh, great. Good luck, and don't forget to mention me.
I won't, babe. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too. It's a new kind of wearable device and platform that's built entirely from the ground up for artificial intelligence. And it's completely standalone. You don't need a smartphone or any other device to pair with it. In fact, I'm wearing one right now. And it interacts with the world the way you interact with the world, hearing what you hear seeing what you see. We like to say that the experience is screenless, seamless, and sensing. Say you're health conscious, or you have certain types of food considerations. Picked up one of these chocolates. Can I eat this?
A Milky Bar contains cocoa butter. Given your intolerance, you may want to avoid it.
My AI knows what's best for me, but I'm in total control.
United Kingdom, the first babies conceived not by 2 but by 3 parents were born via in vitro fertilization, and a scientific breakthrough that also raises many ethical questions.
That's right. That procedure was performed by the Newcastle Fertility Centre in the UK. It aims to help women at risk of passing on genetic conditions to their babies, such as dementia or epilepsy. It's called mitochondrial donation therapy, and it basically involved taking sperm from a father to fertilize 2 eggs, 1 egg from the mother and 1 from a donor. And then what they did was remove the genetic material of the donor's egg, the nucleus, and replace it with the fertilized material from the 2 parents. It's certainly a scientific breakthrough, as the Times of London says. There's an interesting article in the Telegraph which really does also talk about how important this is in terms of scientific advancement. It is also, it could give us the possibility of eliminating genetic diseases in the future, but it is also, I quote, a hair's breadth away from genetic engineering, whereby we could create embryos with genetic advantages, and that is more problematic. It is also possibly why this procedure has only been approved to a small group of research facilities in the UK.
We must convert at least 50% of the land area of North America to wilderness, off limits to human beings. Those core wilderness areas are to be interconnected by wilderness corridors off limits to human beings. Those wilderness areas are to be surrounded by buffer zones that may have limited resource use under the supervision and permitting of the federal government, in collaboration with non-government organizations. Human population is to be resettled into the remaining 25% of the land, into communities that are described as sustainable communities.
There is a policy of the American government. It's called the Kissinger Report, which was produced in the mid-70s when Henry Kissinger was involved with the government. And it explicitly states, which to this day, it remains the official policy of the American government. It has not changed. It may not be implemented by Trump, but it remains the same. That the purpose of the foreign policy in Africa was to reduce the population. So to give aid to countries in Africa, not clean water and schooling and things like that, but contraception and abortion, in order to shrink the population of Africa, because they have great mineral resources there.
That sounds diabolical.
It is, yes.
That sounds like something conceived in the mind of Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, definitely. And so at the time, Kissinger and those involved with the Carter administration wanted to shrink the population, make sure that the Africans do not develop and do not use the resources for themselves, because we in the States, we need them. There is a concerted effort of foreign powers to control the population of Africa. Africa is a huge continent, could feed thousands more people, but the policies of the West, especially in Europe. For example, between 1990 and the year 2000, the United States, Canada, and Europe contributed about $6 billion in contraceptives. Not to help the people, not to give clean water, clean food. That is
not to fight malaria, for example.
No, of course, perish the thought. Never let them die. That's the whole idea. So, in our work in HLI, we denounced it.
And people have already got it now. It can be placed anywhere on the brain surface. Multiple devices can be placed on the same person's brain. After implantation, the chip detects the electrical signals generated by the wearer's thoughts. So, and if they're coming out with something like this, you already know they tested it already. How would they know if it picks up electrical signals? If it allows you to move a robotic arm or anything? It has already been tested. People already have it. They say only 3 dozen people have it, but I believe probably more than 3 dozen people have it because you have to do a study before you just put something like this on the market.
Right.
So, yeah.
Didn't they say what is it like? This is what is this? Or is this internet? What generation is this? Like 5G? They said 6G is going to be like in your body.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So I think.
And we haven't really gotten used to 5G yet. That's the thing.
Right.
They're already working on the next thing.
It's moving so fast.
And I do have some in correlation to this. So this is kind of like a throwback article. So the Pentagon, back in 2004, the Pentagon, which had a project, but they had to get rid of this project. It was called LifeLog. It said Pentagon kills LifeLog project. Now, this article came out in 2004. It says the Pentagon has canceled its so-called LifeLog project, an ambitious effort by DARPA. Now, this was ran by DARPA, the Defense Department's research arm, to build a database tracking a person's entire existence. Now, LifeLog aimed to gather in a single place just about everything an individual says, sees, or does. Phone calls made, televisions watched, magazines read, plane tickets bought, emails sent and received. Out of this ocean of information, computer scientists would plot distinctive routes in data, mapping relationships, memories, events, and experiences. Now, supporters touted the program as one that would forward research in artificial intelligence and yield an almost perfect digital assistant. Now, critics argue that the LifeLog could become the ultimate tool for profiling potential enemies of the state. Now, DARPA hasn't provided an explanation for LifeLog's quiet cancellation, but a change in priorities is the only rational explanation that the agency gave. So this LifeLog project in 2004 that the Pentagon had, which was of course ran by DARPA, basically tracked every single thing: your emails, what you did, things you bought, plane tickets. But check this out. So they canceled it in 2004. Now, the same day they announced they canceled this project in 2004 is the same day that they announced Facebook. So they no longer needed that because they had Facebook. Now, Facebook became that data system. Facebook basically tracks everything you do. It can hear you. Our phone has cameras on it. You can be talking about something. The next thing you know, it pops up in your advertisement. If you're talking about food, next thing you know, you see advertisement for like pizza, chicken, or if you're looking up shoes, next thing you know, like a lot of your advertisements would be about shoes and things of that nature. So the same year that they canceled this, the same day they announced that Facebook came out. Which is interesting. And so now, if you put everything together, now we have these new AI systems that are now coming along, and they're extremely intelligent. And I just thought that was interesting about that, and how they do things to track us. And do you know, like in 2021, there were 5 banks that were going to test the FedNow real-time payment system. So there were 5 banks in 2021 that was going to go ahead and hey, we're going to test this new FedNow app. Mm-hmm. So the 5 banks, which is interesting to me, because the 5 banks that tested this FedNow app out in 2021, which was First Republic Bank, Tri-Counties Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, Pacific Coast Bankers, and First Foundations Bank, they say they will be testing the program. This is in 2021. Now, fast forward, this is 2023. And all of a sudden, we had these bank crashes. So tell me why. These are the banks that were crashing first. These are big banks. But these are the banks that in 2021 who agreed to test this FedNow system out. And, we had Silicon Valley Bank that crashed. We had First Republican Bank that crashed like about 2 weeks ago. Tri-Counties Bank, Pacific Coast Bankers, and it was just mighty strange that these are the banks in 2021 that tested out this new FedNow app.
Right. Maybe they said, we'll take the dive first. Get ahead of the storm.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
And now they took their money out. Now you can reinvest your money. We'll be all right. We got to get that out the way. 6 bills in the Brazilian Congress criminalize everything from cutting in line to receiving a vaccine to people who spread fake news about how the vaccine works. This dude named Angelo Cornell foresees the inclusion in the criminal code of imprisonment for 1 to 3 years for people who omit or oppose the mandatory vaccination of children or adolescents in a public health emergency. The project also criminalizes with a penalty of 2 to 8 years in prison for people who refuse to take the mandatory dose of vaccines. The same punishment also applies to those who spread fake news about the vaccines or how they work. So the next pandemic, they're going to be penalizing and arresting the people that don't take the mandatory vaccine, that don't shove whatever they want to put up your arm, and the people that spread fake news about it, they're going to arrest you give you about 2 to 8 years.
The World Economic Forum, look at their website. They talk about Agenda 2030. In 9 years, they want all of us to be different kinds of human beings. Believe it or not, it's true. They call it Human 2.0. What this means is they will connect us with the Internet of Everything. It is pretty much melding the human body, our natural, God-given, beautifully divine-inspired bodies, with artificial intelligence. Do you want that? Absolutely not. They want us to all be connected, but not through our souls, not through God. They want us to be connected through a computer, through a supercomputer. That's not connection. They want us to be immortal, too. They want us to be connected and downloaded and uploaded our memories. That is not connection. And how will they do that? They have different substances inside of these injections that they're calling vaccines. So we need to know what they are. It's the advent of what's happening in the future. So I'm here to warn you, as well as my fellow physicians, about these things that are going on.
Behind the gods of the pagan world are spirits. In Hebrew, they're called the Shedim. In Greek, they're called the daimonia. We get the word demon. Second, Jesus gave the parable about a man who's delivered from a demonic spirit, but the spirit goes back into the man with 7 other spirits, and the man is repossessed, and more so than before. The warning for America and Western civilization is this: any nation, any culture, any civilization that has been cleansed, delivered of such things as in the spirits by the power of God, the word, the gospel, Jesus, if it should ever turn away from God, empty itself of God, it will not remain empty. The spirits that were cast out of it will come back into it. The ancient spirits, the gods, will return to repossess the culture. And that's exactly what's happening to America. That's exactly what's happening to the West. As it's been emptying itself of God, the spirits, the gods, the demonic powers have returned, and they are repossessing our culture. In the book,
Christians have lost the desire to read the very words that tell them how to live. The result is they mix the sacred with the profane, surrendering all hope of them making it into heaven.
Wonderful. Now we have to find a way to force human reproduction into a massive decline.
We are thinking a global recession.
Making the cost of living so high very few will be able to afford it, unless by dishonest means.
The need for money will be so great, and job opportunities so limited, that crime and violence will escalate to alarming levels in many countries.
Guns will fall off the market like chewing gums. The prisons will be overcrowded. The graves will expand like hell itself.
That should take care of 15% of the population. What else do we have?
We can use their own bodies against them.
Worldwide pornography. We introduce this on all levels, from billboards to public newspapers. We make pornography an occupation, a career.
We will make pornography freely accessible by everyone. It will become a way of life for many, a secret door to pleasure.
Nudity is marketable. It is 80% of the population's interest. We start from the mild. A star girl in the daily newspaper, wearing nothing at the top. Then as the desires increase, we introduce more until a man's appetite for sex cannot be satisfied with having just one partner.
Adultery and fornication will become an acceptable way of life, even in the church. The scent of sin will go up into God's nostrils. The atmosphere will be utterly polluted with what he hates. Humans will think of nothing but sex.
Wouldn't it contribute greatly to our problem?
Not if there is a way for humans to protect themselves from pregnancies and diseases during sexual activity.
Heliopolis, the city of the sun. Now, this city is important for many reasons, but one of those is that there was a priest here who lived in the 4th and 3rd century BC named Manetho, who was one of the foremost historians for ancient Egypt. And in his writings, Manetho tells us that the pharaoh of the Exodus was someone named Amenhotep.
Is there a pharaoh named Amenhotep that is reigning during the biblical date 1446 BC? Amenhotep I reigned from 1546 to 1526. His reign is too early. Amenhotep III reigned too late, from 1414 to 1377 BC. In between them, Amenhotep II reigned from 1450 to 1423. And so the biblical date of 1446 BC for the Exodus falls within the reign of Amenhotep II. The Amenhotep that Manetho is writing about must be Amenhotep II because the dates of his reign are in sync with the biblical date of the Exodus. There's additional information from other verses in the Bible that can also be used to further test Amenhotep II. For example, in Exodus, it talks about the Pharaoh that reigns before the Exodus Pharaoh, and he is often referred to as the Pharaoh of the oppression. In the book of Exodus, we are told this: Pharaoh tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian. During that long period, the king of Egypt died, before the Lord had said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt." In the New Testament, in Acts chapter 7, Stephen is retelling how Moses fled to Midian, but then after 40 years had passed, he returned to Egypt. We can test this then with Amenhotep II. Did the predecessor of Amenhotep II reign for more than 40 years? Well, his predecessor was his father, Thutmose III, and Thutmose III had a reign of 54 years. He's the only pharaoh in the 18th dynasty that had a reign for more than 40 years. So Amenhotep II passes this test. Exodus 11:5 says of the 10th plague that every firstborn son in Egypt will die, including the firstborn son of Pharaoh who sits on the throne. If Amenhotep II is the Exodus Pharaoh, then his firstborn son should have died in the 10th plague. And so the successor of Amenhotep II is his son Thutmose IV, who is not his firstborn son. His firstborn son died mysteriously, we know from the Egyptian records. This is the mummy.
A bill that would actually ban some Christian books is working its way through the California State Assembly. Sponsors of Assembly Bill 2943 actually want to outlaw books that basically teach against homosexuality and gender identity. SaveCalifornia.com's Randy Thomason joins us now for the latest on this legislation. Randy, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
So tell us more about this bill. I mean, it sounds like a stretch even for California, a bill attacking free speech and freedom of religion.
There's 8 homosexual legislators, Democrats, all of them, who are sponsoring this bill. And AB 2943 would start by saying, okay, nobody can get counseling to overcome same-sex desires. Okay, so no help for adult children, adults who were molested as kids, and now they're adults, and they say, I want help to overcome these feelings. No help for you. But because the bill is actually written in a part of the law that deals with consumer complaints, it actually says no goods or services can be sold for anything, any practice. It's very vague, very broad. Anything helping people overcome same-sex desires. So this is a pastor who's speaking. You pay a ticket to hear him speak. He speaks about overcoming same-sex desires. Hey, that could be outlawed. A church.
Antichrist is coming, the Apostle John. Antichrist is coming.
We are just now where we move into the exponential phase. Artificial intelligence, but not only artificial intelligence, but also the metaverse, near space technologies, and I could go on and on. Synthetic biology. Our life in 10 years from now will be completely different, very much affected, and who masters those technologies in some way will be the master of the world.
The first week of April, the Federal Reserve begins the rollout of their new central bank digital US dollar. That's right. It's called the FedNow program, and it's going to replace your paper currency. Not overnight, but it's moving in that direction. And it will move the United States to a cashless society, a surveillance state where every transaction will be tracked and cataloged, where, as the Fed describes it, money that's in your account can even expire and become unusable. That's right.
You're gonna go to jail because the police here, 99% conviction rate. Shut up.
We don't do anything illegal. You cannot take us to jail. If you are not involved, please go. Shalom, my friend. We bless you.
You're in my country.
You come to the United States, you can say whatever you want to say. That is a free world, yes?
You're not in the United States. You're in Israel.
I understand.
You cannot say whatever you want to say here.
Yes, you can. It's legal. It is legal to preach about Yeshua. We preach at Damascus Gate. The police said it's okay. We preach at Jaffa Gate. The police say it's okay. Please stop. I respect you. Respect me.
He doesn't have to respect you.
Huh?
He doesn't have to respect you.
That is the right thing. Are you Jewish? Do you want to honor God? That is the godly thing to do. We respect one another.
The godly thing to do is to kill you.
The godly thing is to kill me.
That's right.
Yes?
That's what the Torah says.
The Torah says to kill us.
The Torah says that people who worship idols such as yourself, when there is a Sanhedrin,
to kill us.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the Torah says.
So we know how the Jewish people feel about Christians, yes? That you discriminate against Christians.
Christians are idol worshippers.
You discriminate against Christians.
The Torah says that Christianity is idol worship.
Let me ask.
So you're having a very hard time believing that we aren't participating in some sort of mass awakening when you have Jim Caviezel saying things like this on Steve Bannon.
Where's our Pope? Why is he not speaking out when poor Catholics are being ripped to kingdom come from the FBI? These are the things that are going on in there. It's like a tentacle, the octopus with arms. It's many, many arms, but you got to go after the head of the octopus in this one. Who is it? The central banks, the IMF, the ECB, the private West central banks, the BIZ, the Rothschild banks. We have a Rothschild Pope. And there are great Americans out there that are fighting right now, fighting with all their hearts, but they don't have a voice. So I'll be that voice. I saw what John the Baptist did. I think about him all the time in this situation. Would you lose your head for Christ?
Wow.
Weaponize religion to justify your subjective opinion.
How do you think I've done that?
You say that God says, oh, there's men, there's a woman, and just leave that as that. Like, you don't represent religion because we don't live in a country where you can be pure based on your religion. Like, you sin, everyone sins, if we can understand that. So trying to weaponize that against people and try to limit their rights because of what you think God said, God didn't speak to you. You don't know.
God does speak to me, and he speaks to all of us, and we can read his word in the Bible, and we can go to church. No, that is true. So what you're objecting to is that I've quoted the Bible, and I've said right there in the early chapters of Genesis, in the beginning God made man, both male and female created he them. And you're saying, Michael, why would you weaponize religion that way? But what have all I've done is just quoted the Bible, and I'd be happy to have a conversation about 2,000 years of church history on this subject, and I'm happy to have a conversation about even pre-biblical or extra-biblical sources on it, on the hylomorphic nature of the human being. I'm happy to do that. That's not a weapon against any people, that's a weapon against falsehood. And so the only way in which I would turn religion into a weapon is against the devil, and that's what we all have to do, because religion is a habit of virtue that renders to God what he deserves. That's the meaning of the word religion. And so I'm just reading the text and I'm practicing the faith and I'm telling you what the faith has said for 2,000 years. And you might reject it, but I think that it's true. I think religion is true. And you might think that it's false, and you might have a different set of beliefs, but one of us is, at the very most, one of us is going to be right. And so at the very least, one of us is going to be wrong. And I just happen to be correct about this.
You know, I can respect the confidence, but it's just purely delusion. Okay, I
don't think Christianity is
delusional. I respect religions, I respect people's rights, but trying to limit someone's rights by saying, well, I believe that God said this, so I'm gonna block you from doing this, like abortion. People get raped, people get incest, and it's crazy traumatic situations. And it's very hard for a human to ask a human, oh, keep that baby because God said to. That is impossible.
Men shall be lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God. Humans have always preferred instant pleasure above spiritual gain. They spend more time on themselves than they do with anything concerning God.
Indeed. But all these are outer attacks. It is their minds that we need to control.
That is where I come in. I will tell you of our inevitable victory. Within the confines of these walls, there exists a secret chamber. Within that chamber are thousands of demons that have been undergoing extensive training. These demons have read the human manuscripts hundreds of times and have committed the concepts to memory. I refer to them as the New Age seducers.
How effective are these seducers?
They can convince a man to become a woman. They will convince men to kill themselves for no reason. They will seduce men into having sexual relations with animals.
That should turn the stomach of heaven.
Precisely. Men will turn on each other within their own groups. The church will be against the church. Politicians against politician. Family against family.
The seducers can accomplish this?
Without a doubt. Once each group is divided, they'll be unable to stand.
There will be some who will only listen to the voice of God.
A minority at best. Humans no longer see the need to protect their minds, thanks to our influence through the media. They entertain every thought, every fantasy, and every lust. Many don't know who they are, or whose they are, and that is a great advantage for us.
On top of that, there has been a significant decline in prayers and the sincere study of the Holy Scriptures.
We have the advantage. Our crowds increase as we draw closer to the end. It is time we exact our revenge on God for kicking us out of heaven by sending as many humans to hell as we possibly can.
So we go all out this time.
I do not want to push God's hand too quickly.
They're playing, people. These are demons. Just like the Bible says, it's basically an intergalactic invasion into this space through people. I'm telling you, it's what all the ancients said, it's what they warned of, it's what we're dealing with. They're demons. They're freaking interdimensional invaders, okay? I'll just say it, make fun of me all you want on CNN or wherever, but everyone already innately knows this. These people are not freaking humans.
I've been warning people about this for years as I've seen just general free speech being attacked across the country on social media. You can't say this word, you can't say that word. They take you off of social media. Now the Biden administration actually has issued an order where they're if you give disinformation on social media, you can be considered a terrorist. We're appealing this case, and we're going to try to set this straight that this man has the right to free speech and the freedom of religion. If not, toss it out, folks. They're going to cancel Christianity if they want to. The people who gave us the First Amendment believed in that our rights came from God and that we had the right to speak. God gave us the right to speak out, to protest, to do all those things. They're encased in our First Amendment, folks.
You know, some of the events that led up to this, you know, he protested, and correct me if I'm wrong, a church and an LGBTQ organization. And these two women, there was a photo that I have read it was a public photo that was shared, that he shared along with these verses.
Quoting Jesus Christ on social media, if that's a crime, then folks, what's going to happen to ministers across the country if you say the wrong thing? If you say, well, I don't like this group, and here's what Jesus might have said about that, you can actually get a restraining order issued against you if this holds.
What was the purpose of the protesting, and how did this get in front of police? Because that's the question people have. Well, how did it go from social media posts and again, correct any part of that you feel is incorrect, to the police being involved in this?
Oh, the people that felt threatened by the Bible verses, to turn him into the police and objected at that point. They were threatened. They were afraid. Again, I say more and more people are afraid of free speech today, by the way. Kids are being taught in school they can't say the word God. They can't study the Declaration of Independence because the Declaration of Independence says if you don't like the government, we can remove it. They don't want any of that today. We're at a real key point in this country where if we don't start protecting our rights, we're going to lose them. And we don't have much time, folks, because, like I say, the generation I see coming out of schools today don't have any clue about what their rights are.
And the thing is that
so now you're a slave. Now they can get in your body. You don't own your own body. That's
people that have been getting these the juice, the V juice. They've been having problems, and you can't even come out and speak out about it because you will be censored. You know what I mean? And I always tell people, like for the people that say like, hey, getting vaccinated is good, is great. But check this out. When you go to the eye doctor, they test your eyes, right? So they can see what kind of medicine you need for your glasses, what kind of glasses you need. So you may not see out the same glasses as your mother could see. Like, have you ever used someone's glasses and like put them on and it was like really, really blurry? It didn't work for you. Same thing with asthma. People have different asthma pumps. So they're doing things. They measure you first. They figure out what's best for you, to give you. So how can they just say like, hey, everybody can get this one size vaccine is going to work for your body? It doesn't work like that. So
they don't care.
Yeah, they don't.
Just want obedience. They want you to be obedient to what they saying. They want you to shut up. They'll use the health stuff just to get the control. Mm-hmm. That's basically what it's for. It's for control.
Now, New York City. Now, this is an interesting article. Now, New York City, in a close vote of 5-4, the board chose to consider raising stabilized rates of New York's rent from 2 to 5% for its 1-year leases and 4 to 7% for its 2-year leases. Now, rent is starting to go up already in all places. Groceries are starting to, prices are starting to rise. Rent is starting to rise. However, in New York, they were protesting at the board meeting because they are going to raise the rent. And just to give you an idea of how much rent costs in New York, in Flatbush, New York, a studio costs us $2,300, a 1-bedroom costs $2,500, and 2-bedroom costs $2,800. In Washington Heights, New York, a studio costs $2,100, a 1-bedroom costs $2,300 per month, and a 2-bedroom is $2,800 per month. In Harlem, a studio is $2,400 a month, and a 1-bedroom is $2,500 a month, and so forth. In East Harlem, you got $3,000 for a studio. So just if you're hearing these prices, just imagine they're talking about raising prices on the rent out there again, and it's terrible. What they're doing. Not only there in New York, but what they're doing like all around. Yeah, to be honest with you,
they want the rich there. That's what they want there.
Yeah,
no money, get out of here.
Yeah, they starting to do that because if you're looking up houses, you're starting to see prices are going up.
Yeah, get out of here.
And they barely want to raise the pay at job. So how is that going to average out? If rent is going up and groceries is going up, it's gonna get real serious out here pretty soon.
That's the peasant class. We want the peasant class out the city. How do we get the peasant class out the city? Raise the rent, but keep the minimum wage low. So they can't live where we live at. They got to live on the other side of town, then drive here and work for us. That's the peasant class.
Governor DeSantis signs bill defunding diversity programs at public colleges. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill restricting public colleges and universities from spending funds on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Now, the bill, SB 266, will require public colleges and universities to eliminate all major and minors in critical race theory and gender studies. The bill also forbids public colleges from offering courses on systematic racism, including classes that distort historical events and teach identity politics. Also, the University of Central Florida students, the university staff in Florida The university staff and Florida Democrats have pushed back since the bill was introduced early this year. Now, other recent bills signed into law by DeSantis that restricts speech at public schools include the Stop Woke Act and so-called, well, I'm a fan of this one, the Don't Say Gay, because they say it's not called the Don't Say Gay bill, but that was actually a pretty good bill. But DeSantis, they're saying DeSantis has changed how public education and curriculum are taught. Now, my only thing about this is just that I feel like, now I can understand about gender studies. Now, if they want to make that what do you call that, an elective, you know, if you want to learn about that, that's fine. But I feel like things like critical race theory and identity, you know.
And systematic racism.
Yeah, systematic racism. Well, we barely, I mean, even in school, if you open our history books, we didn't have that many black people in our history books. I remember being in school, I'm like, wait a second. It was only 2 black people that only did something. So our history was already starting to be whitewashed already, right. Especially if you had people that contributed to making this country, you know what I mean? Why not just tell it? You know?
They don't want to show people, they don't want to show kids that's growing up, how did we end up in this situation? You know what I'm saying? They don't want to show how, you know, because how we became poor in this country, how our neighborhoods look like jungles, or, you know what I'm saying, look like people that barely got a little bit. If you don't show the critical race theory, you don't show the systematic oppression or systematic racism, then it's basically they like that because they like that, you know,
because they're lazy, they don't work hard.
They're lazy, they don't work hard.
Say that.
You know, it's no such thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what type of people they are. We're better because we have the nice things. You know, a person won't know how this came to be. You know what I'm saying?
And I think it's important for children to know that, especially black children, because a lot of black children feel like, you know, they haven't contributed. Black people hadn't done anything in this world. Well, that's not true. We built the White House. Yeah. Actually, we built a lot of stuff over here in America.
A lot of inventors and stuff.
Inventors, builders, but when they think of us, they only think of us as slaves and being born in the ghettos when you think of a black person. Yeah. Not that we are really great architects.
So they won't show you why they look at us like that. You know, what happened? You know what I'm saying? They'll just show you slave. They'll show you this is reality. Mm-hmm. They'll show you reality without showing you what happened. They're not going to give you the past and how they funneled us into our reality of today. Reality.
Fargo are announcing a 10-year partnership to build communities for all income levels. Now, this partnership includes a commitment of up to $1 billion with a B from Wells Fargo to help pay for various projects. Their first project is a mixed income housing and retail development outside Atlanta. The nearly 95-acre property is a former Army base, Fort McPherson, which is right next to Tyler Perry Studios. The TD Jakes Group is a conglomerate of 4 business units: TD Jakes Ministries and TD Jakes Foundation, those are nonprofits, while TD Jakes Enterprises and TD Jakes Real Estate Ventures are for-profit entities. TD Jakes himself also presides over the Potter's House Church, but the church is not affiliated with this Wells Fargo partnership. We welcome you, Bishop. It's so good to have you at the table.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be with you.
Yeah. Clearly, you have a lot going on in your life, but explain exactly how this is going to work and why you wanted to do it now.
I think it's imperative. The fierce urgency of now indicates to us the fact that the future looks very bleak, particularly for minorities, black people, brown people, and also poor white people who are finding it difficult, workforce people, to find a job, to find opportunities, to get housing, to get upward mobility, to have communities that are built in repressed neighborhoods and revitalize the community, giving the homeowners who live there or people who lived in the community a chance to stay there for affordable rates. So this is an exciting moment for us. We're really, really thrilled to be able to do it.
So Wells Fargo is committing to up to $1 billion to fund these projects, pay for is the way we put it. That's not a donation, right? That's an investment. No. They want to make money off it.
Well, no, it's not. I don't know what they want to do, but it's not a donation. It's a commitment to supporting initiatives to raise up communities that have been repressed.
Was Wells Fargo your only option on this, or what made you comfortable with Wells Fargo? And the reason I ask that is, you know, they have a recent history. In fact, just in December, they paid a $3.7 billion fine to settle accusations of illegal overdraft fees, illegal fees tied to car loans, illegal fees tied to mortgages. This is money they were taking out of the pockets of low-income people that you're trying to help now.
Right, and that's exactly the reservations that I had with them as well. Initially, several years ago, when they talked to me, I would not do business with them for those very reasons. That settlement that came from the previous administration. They have a new leader now. They have a new administration, and they're beginning to right some of the wrongs. This is not going to right it all at once, but it is a start toward justifying and rectifying some of the mistakes that have been made previously. The other reason is when other banks stood back and looked, Wells Fargo stood up and said, I'm willing to make this unlikely alliance, this very unique alliance. I've written a book called Disruptive Thinking, and this disruptive alliance between us is designed to lift up underserved, underrepresented communities.
What do you get out of this, Bishop, being involved in this partnership?
First and primary thing for me is legacy. It's a legacy piece for me. I want to give back. I want to do something for people who have been loyal and faithful to me and people that I know and love. The second thing that I get out of it is knowing that we have headed off a collision. That the stats say that by 2050, the average median income for Black people is going to be zero. And so we have got to get in front of this with STEAM, with technology, with job creation, with entrepreneurship, with mixed income housing and schools, closing food deserts, doing things like that I think are vitally important for the future.
And you want to make sure that people understand this is not low income housing, this is mixed income housing. Why do you want to make that note?
Well, we try.
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
We were going mixed income housing.
Mixed income housing means that your neighbor across the street might be a doctor, somebody else might be working for FedEx, and somebody else might be underemployed and a janitor. The reason
we see now in our modern day Christianity, the shepherds, the ones that are celebrity, or the ones that you see all the time, or the ones that are have the big ministries or whatever, they deal with no issues usually that's controversial, no issues that will cause them to have to take a stand, no issues that go against Hollywood, no issues that issues like abortion, or issues like homosexuality, or any other issue that's political. They don't deal with it. And one of the reasons that we must understand is that most of you all who don't know, most leaders know this, but most laymen and members of churches don't know that most churches are 501c3. The 501c3 is the IRS code that regulates churches, and it's a tax. It's the IRS taxing program. What it means is that churches can, by them being nonprofit, can be exempt from taxes, but that was put in place by I believe FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, but the goal really was to silence churches, because I think one of the first lines of the 501c3 tax code is churches cannot involve themselves in politics or endorse any political party, or basically have no comment on the things of the world going on around them. Basically, churches can't take a stand on a political view or endorse a political candidate. And what it means is it was a way to silence the church.
Yes, this is really important. Asian Americans were redlined from opening businesses in white neighborhoods because white people didn't want Asian Americans operating in their neighborhoods and didn't want Asian Americans profiting off of white people. But because the positionality of Asian Americans is weaponized to oppress Black people, Asian Americans were being given loans to open businesses in Black communities, even though Black people were not able to receive loans to open businesses in their own communities. And as I've said before, as a result of this, Black wealth is essentially paid out twice when it goes to Asian American businesses. Once when the individual pays for the goods or services, and then again when the Asian American business owner removes the profit from the community. Because usually people open businesses in their own communities, and this is mutually beneficial, where the business owner is making a livelihood off of providing goods and services to their community, and by being a member of the community, they're contributing contributing and they're investing back into the community. This is an ideal situation, and that is not what happens with Asian American businesses operating in Black communities.
In the 1950s, when the Army and the CIA released 4 million mosquitoes per day in Florida near a Black housing development, what were they testing? What were they trying to test?
Well, they were trying to test whether transmitting certain ailments by mosquito might be an effective way of performing bioterrorism abroad. If they were actually, for example, just to give an example, if they were going to have conflict with Japan, for example, would it make sense to release mosquitoes in an area of Japan in hopes that they would transmit whooping cough and other ailments?
Right.
So they did it with Americans. They actually transmitted pathogen-borne, agents like mosquitoes, and then they carefully calibrated the cases of whooping cough in the area to see whether they rose, and indeed they did.
Wow.
President Biden has released a video ad announcing he's seeking re-election.
Let's finish this job. I know we can, because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
By 1861, the value of enslaved people in the United States was between $3.5 and $4 billion. Enslaved people were the single largest asset in the U.S. economy, worth more than every manufacturing and interest and railroad combined. How did that happen? We went from 1619, where 20 and odd enslaved people were brought to Virginia, and by 1788, when the Constitution was signed, we were at almost 700,000 enslaved people. That's how we were harvesting 1.5 million pounds of cotton every year, not to say anything of the tobacco, the sugar, and the rice. And the economy went from reliance on the transatlantic slave trade, which the Constitution kept open until 1808. We went from there to reliance on the domestic slave trade. That means breeding Black women to have children to continue America's production of cotton, tobacco, sugar, and rice. And of course, it wasn't just the products, it was the institutions and the industries that they drove. Katrina Brown has done an excellent documentary called Traces of the Trade, and she makes a very important point. Yes, America was enriched in huge amounts by the institution of slavery. But for those who came after slavery saying, I had no part in that, understand, the vast immigration to the United States was for a reason, because there were jobs. And there were jobs because our economy was booming. And our economy was booming because it had been built on unpaid labor. This is the story of how America got rich. And if you follow the money, this is where it's going to lead you.
Around the same time that John D. Rockefeller seized U.S. media, he also hijacked U.S. medicine. When it was discovered that drugs could be produced from petroleum, America's top oil mogul ordered his army of propagandists to invert reality accordingly. Medicines used for thousands of years were suddenly classified as alternative, while the new, petroleum-based, highly addictive, and patentable drugs were declared the gold standard. After buying the German pharmaceutical company that manufactured chemicals of war for Adolf Hitler, Rockefeller leveraged his political influence by pressing Congress to declare natural healing modalities unscientific quackery. Rockefeller then took control of the American Medical Association and began offering massive grants to top medical schools under the mandate that only his approved curriculum be taught. Any mention of the healing powers of herbs, plants, and diet was erased from most medical textbooks. Doctors and professors who objected to Rockefeller's plan were crucified by the media, removed from the AMA, and stripped of their license to teach and practice medicine. Those who dared to speak out were arrested and jailed. When evidence began to emerge that petroleum-based medicines were causing cancer, Mr. Rockefeller founded the American Cancer Society, through which he suppressed that information. John D. Rockefeller is duly credited as the founder of the pharmaceutical industry, and the reason that medical error is currently the third leading cause of death in America. This is not an indictment against doctors. More than anyone, they are under the stranglehold of the single largest lobbying power in Washington. Every year, the pharmaceutical industry spends at least twice the amount as big oil to influence laws, policies, and public perception. Thanks to Mr. Rockefeller, the architect of American monopolies, no industry has more power over our lives.
Well, I say it is frightening, and it should be frightened to the entire American people that he has demanded $10 billion. And if he doesn't get it, then there may be riots this summer. Martin Luther King is nothing but a blackmailer, and he should be arrested for blackmailing because he certainly has blackmailed the United States government.
There's one thing that bothers me, and that, as a Negro yourself, why do you talk so bitterly against Martin Luther King and a lot of these other people of your race?
Well, let me tell you something. I don't put my race before I do my country. Being a Negro woman doesn't matter to me who is a Negro or who is a white person. If they are enemies of our country, then they are certainly my enemies too.
Thousands today took to the streets across France to protest against working more. They're trying to force President Emmanuel Macron to reverse a new, deeply unpopular law, raising the retirement age from 62 to 64. A change made without a vote in Parliament and approved by the highest court here. More than 100 policemen were injured, 20 hospitalized in Paris alone.
So the police have been charging through here, and the protesters have been pushing them back, kicking them, throwing.
Now to the battle for control of the North African nation of Sudan. Dozens of people have been killed and hundreds more are believed to be injured. Smoke could be seen throughout the capital. The impact of the fighting visible all the way into space. Satellite images show 2 cargo planes burning on the tarmac of the international airport. The conflict is now spreading to other parts of the country. Here's ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge.
Tonight, violence spiraling out of control in Sudan on a second day of deadly fighting. Tanks rolling through the capital Khartoum, fighter jets circling overhead, firing missiles. Buildings burning. Passenger planes parked at the airport destroyed. At least 80 people killed, more than 1,100 injured. Lakshmi from Boston, a tourist in Sudan.
I woke up to the sound of gunshots and bombs here in Khartoum.
Right now, she has no easy option out of Khartoum.
There were people running and you saw jets and it looked like all-out war was happening.
Sees now to those mass evacuations from war-torn Sudan. The U.S. government has now helped roughly 1,000 U.S. citizens evacuate that country in northeast Africa since fighting broke out last month between rival military factions. That includes about 100 U.S. citizens who arrived by boat today in Saudi Arabia. CBS's Ramy Inocencio is there.
Waiting for a way out, the fortunate find their way to Port Sudan. This sea of humanity, desperate for safe passage.
I have no idea how I'm gonna leave this spot. If it's gonna be by plane or gonna be by ship, I have no clue.
The country's Monday, following this weekend, the entire hotel will be rented out to migrants and taxpayers. They are footing the bill. So this is a 50-story tall hotel. It has won the right to house migrants for $190 a night per room. That's around $100,000 a day. The contract lasts until April 2024. If migrants are still in the rooms past then, taxpayers will be paying $750 per night for each room.
Developing tonight, outbursts and outrage at a community meeting in South Shore over a housing plan for migrants.
The debate comes as the city deals with the crisis of where to put migrants bussed in from the border.
Elizabeth Matthews is live now with more. Elizabeth.
Corey and Don, contentious to say the least. This forum was a chance for city leaders to get input from the public about the old South Shore High School housing migrants. The city got their input.
A packed house at the South Shore International College Prep High School. The crowd voicing their opinion, strongly opposing the addition of migrants in their community.
I am just outraged. I'm outraged, and I don't understand why our community was chosen.
City representatives saying the old South Shore High School would not be a shelter, but one of 3 respite centers for the migrants to temporarily sleep, eat, and take a shower, starting with about 250 people taking up the building's first floor. This is a way for the city to get the current 300 migrants out of the police stations. Questions were asked, but answers hard to hear, interrupted by the upset crowd. Before the meeting, a small protest of South Shore neighbors demanding the energy put into the migrant issue be put into their neighborhoods.
It is a slap in the face that we as citizens of the United States of America do not have the resources and support, but you're going to bring people who are not citizens here in our community, in our buildings that we pay taxes for, that you took away from us. Yeah. That is completely unacceptable. We are in a humanitarian crisis right now. The black people in Chicago are bleeding on the streets.
Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson.
With the breaking news involving the U.S. border with Mexico, President Biden sending 1,500 active duty U.S. troops to the southern border as Border Patrol agents brace for the end of Title 42. That's the pandemic-era rule that allowed the U.S. to turn migrants away because of concerns over COVID. Title 42 set to expire next week. They're expecting an even larger surge after that. The Pentagon tonight saying those U.S. troops could arrive as soon as next week. They will be deployed for a 90-day period. The White House tonight saying the troops will not have a law enforcement role, nor will they interact with migrants. So tonight here, what will their role be? And this evening, our team with Border Patrol officials on the border there, they are expecting this rush of migrants, and they say they welcome any help. Border towns are already stretched. El Paso declaring a state of emergency, saying 1,350 migrants arrive there every day already. And tonight, the presidents who have deployed troops to the southern border before, the White House insisting this time it is temporary again. ABC's Maria Villarreal leading us off with what she witnessed. She's in Texas tonight.
Tonight, with President Biden set to send active troops to the border, this is the scene we witnessed there. Waves of migrants surging across the Rio Grande River into the U.S. We are there with Border Patrol before dawn.
There's 5 here with 2 children.
I've seen that video where it shows local news people. It's local news people all saying like the exact same thing. It's really weird. No. It's one of those things where you go like, I kind of knew that this happened, but to see it happen so blatantly.
Without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Yeah,
this is the scariest.
Well, that's propaganda. I mean, this is they're trying to bend a narrative in a very specific way for everyone.
I do want to touch on something. You know, Ari, the one that goes with Moneybag Yo.
Yeah.
She's an Instagram influencer, I guess. But she made a post. She said that who said that being gay is a sin? Ari says most of us sin every day, but y'all don't attack people for it like gay people. If it's so bad to sin, treat everybody equally when they commit sin. She said, do y'all hate y'all mamas for not being married when she had you? You know, y'all pick and choose. And she also asked, well, who wrote the Bible and who said that being gay is a sin? Now, I agree with her in the aspect where she said that people tend to pick and choose what sin they want to go after. Mm-hmm. And, you know, call it all a sin. Yes, being gay is sin. If you go drinking and smoking and pulling up the gun, that's a sin too. You're not supposed to do that too. But I don't agree.
She applying her thoughts to the world, where she should be applying what she's saying to Christians. Who said is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's laying that out on like
she's laying that out on the world when she should just be applying it to Christians. For Christians, who's saying it's a sin? You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't seem like it just seems like it's broad and it's not directed at a certain group of people.
Because I think she's looking at the aspect of like all this hate going against gay people. Mm-hmm. And everybody said, oh, being gay is a sin, gay is a sin. Well, is that the only sin?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And
the people that's not following Christ, you know what I'm saying? You got to take the speck out of your eye, the cog out of your eye before you take the speck out of your brother's eye. So you can't talk about one person's sin if you live in sin. You don't even believe in Jesus. So you're carrying around the weight of your own sins.
You can't say,
they just look at like
you saying being gay is a sin, but you sitting up smoking weed and drinking and beating on your girlfriend, cheating with different women, but you saying being gay is a sin. You know what I mean?
Don't be walking around with high heels on, dog.
Yeah, exactly.
You like Boosie, but you still living in sin. You talking bad about Dwayne Wade's son, but you doing what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? You can't talk about it.
He's having his son, I think for his son's birthday, had him sleeping with women.
Yeah.
Encouraging it. Yeah, he was young. I don't even think he had even hit 18 yet.
Yeah. God gonna judge you too. Both of y'all, if he continue on living the way he living and those Wade son continue to live the way he living, they gonna end up in hell. But both of y'all, not just him, you too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the reason why she said, who said it's a sin? God said it's a sin. 1 Corinthians 6 verses 9 through 11. Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor homosexuals. So God said it, nor sodomites, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God. And such were some of you, but you were washed, but you were sanctified, but you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus. By the Spirit of our God. So God said it was a sin.
So drunkards, fornicators, meaning you're having sex out of wedlock. If you're not married, but you're still out here having sex with multiple people, you're out here getting drunk on the basis.
Sex out of marriage.
Yeah.
Any sex.
Using drugs, mistreating people, being evil, homosexuality. So all of that
is sin.
Is a sin. So
she if she was talking to the right one, they'd be able to give us scripture, not just homosexuals. That's just a sin, just like all the other sins. And we all have sinned and fallen short. We too are sinners.
Yes.
But guess what? We have Jesus Christ, right? We have Jesus Christ to rely on, and we through denial, he'll forgive you for a slip up, but he won't forgive you for a lifestyle. We don't live a life of sin.
Could you explain the lifestyle thing? Because
the lifestyle thing is willfully sinning. Hebrews 10 verse 26. For if we willfully sin after we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins. So the lifestyle is I'm smoking and drinking and fornicating or committing adultery. That's my lifestyle. I'm sneaking and texting this girl back and forth. I'm watching porn, and that's just what I do. That is willfully sinning against God, because you after you receive the knowledge of the truth, you know the word of God. You know that a fornicator will not inherit the kingdom of God. You know that a liar will not inherit the kingdom of God. I'm out here stealing. I'm out here lying. Every soul should have their place in the lake of fire. Every life should have their place in the lake of fire. So we cannot.
And don't think you have time.
Live like that.
Don't think you have time. We could die tomorrow. If you was to die right now, where's your spirit going? Where's your soul going? You going to heaven or hell?
Yeah.
So don't think, I got years to get myself together. People are dying younger by the day. You don't know when your time will be.
Yeah. Speaking of smoking, marijuana laced with fentanyl, so you can't even smoke a regular blunt like that no more. They're starting to put fentanyl in your marijuana. It was one woman that was on Facebook the other day. I think she posted. She said she never did any other drug but just smoked some marijuana. She went to take a drug test and to find out what was in her system, I guess for a job or whatever. They said it was fentanyl, I think crack, all type of stuff that she never did before. But these people are starting to put this in your weed,
thinking you got some good weed. I got that good weed.
Yeah, this that Zaza. That's what they sprinkling the fentanyl, the crack on there, and just sitting it on, just sprinkling, just rolling it in just a little bit to get you a little extra boost, a little extra high. Why? To keep you coming. That's what they want to do. They want to have that new. They gonna name it something and buy those bags off Amazon and put it in one of the like a cartoon character bag. Say
like Nicky Barnes had his. It said what?
And give it to him. You know what I'm saying? Like and they gonna be back the next day. That's why they making it more potent. Marijuana laced with fentanyl is rising across the United States. Doctors warn as drug cocktail is found in New York, Alabama, Illinois, and Louisiana. So people are ending up in the hospital.
And I'm gonna add Philly to that too. Have you saw the streets of Philadelphia lately? Now in Philly, it was in Philly, someone recorded and everybody just looked zombied out, leaning over. These drugs hit on a new different level now. I mean, it's terrible, and we're gonna have a clip that you all will see now of what it's doing. And it's not just happening in Philly, it's starting to happen all over. Which I don't think this is by accident. I think it's by design.
The Bible says you should be sober-minded. He said the devil roams around like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour, seeking who's not living by the word of God. That's who he's devouring, And
the devil can only use you through sin. And he tempts us by using sin. So once you start sinning, you're open. You're leaving that door open for you to be used to sin. And
the Holy Spirit will bring it to your attention, like, hey, you don't supposed to be doing that. You don't supposed to be doing that. But once you continue and you get into that willfully sinning, the wages of sin is death. Even though you're alive, you're dead to God. You know what I'm saying? Even though you're alive. Wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. And he will give you over to that reprobated mind. He'll give you over to watching porn every day. You don't even, he's not even the Holy Spirit, not even letting you know, not even waking you. Hey, why is you doing you? No, it's nothing now. You go and enjoy. Give in to the flesh. Call that girl to come through.
Go ahead, be happy, be fruitful. Happy. Go ahead, do your thing.
I'm here, baby.
Do your thing.
You alive.
You took it too far, and that's the thing.
That's when I'm saying seven deadly spirits come back.
And the thing is, it's okay, guys, that it's not easy. The thing is that's what you strive for every day. No one said that being a follower of Christ is easy. But you have to aim for that every day of being holy, of trying to be perfect. You know what I mean? You can't just, like Des was saying, be willfully sinning. You can't just go on the porn sites. You can't just choose to go out and say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go out and sleep with different men, different women. I'm going to go ahead and get drunk today and tomorrow. You have to try to clean up your life, to try to do better. You have to let God in. You have to start trying to read the Bible, read the word. A lot of people say, the Bible is hard. Choose a version that you can understand, download it or get a book and just start from Genesis and start reading it. Start doing research on YouTube. Look up you some good pastors and preachers and teachers.
Matthew 12 verses 43 to 45. When an unclean spirit goes out of a man, he goes through dry places, seeking rest, and finds none. Then says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when he comes, he finds it empty, swept up, and put in order. Then he goes and takes with him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. So that's a guy that got back into willfully sinning. That's the guy that started to follow God. That's why the devil was cast out of the man, and he was going through arid places. Why? While that man was saying he was following the Lord, praying and getting in the scriptures, and when they returned back, he was being tempted. They started tempting him or whatever, and he gave in to his lust. And they entered him and they dwelled in the inside of his house. He was cleaned up and they had a good time. And the last state of that man was worse than the first. That's when that's that willful sinning.
And
that's when you had the knowledge of the truth. That's why he had 7 deadly ones, more dangerous than him, and because you got into willful sin, you knew the word of God.
They say New York City is sinking due to heavy buildings. New York City is, they say the city is dipping about 1 to 2 millimeters per day. New York City, with a population of roughly 8.4 million people, has over 1,000 buildings. The mass of all those buildings is an estimated 1.68 trillion pounds. While the structure continues to weigh down the city, increasing sea levels are basically are raising the issue. It's helping, it's not helping out. Also, there were earthquakes rattled New York, New Jersey. There was an earthquake felt across Ohio, California. Just as a quick weather update. And I believe that's all I have. I do want to touch on before we get out of here. People just noticing, it's a spiritual warfare that we're dealing with. In the Bible, I think this is the book of Jubilee, when Noah's sons came to him and said that, hey, these demons are taking over our sons. They're acting different. It was getting back wicked. But by them being holy and knew and had experienced being in the ark and knew what happened before the ark, how the world was, and knew that God had basically caused a flood, got rid of everybody, and just kept Noah and his family, his sons saw that happening again, that the world was getting dark again, and it was taking over their children. And so I just say this to say that we do need to realize that it is a spiritual warfare right here. You have to recognize the problem in order to deal with the problem. And so once you recognize a problem, it'll be easier to deal with. And only how you're able to deal with that is through God, is through Jesus. That's the only how you're going to deal with that. You won't be able to deal with that fleshly. Go ahead.
I said California law could ban sales of Skittles and other candies like Skittles. They say you may no longer be able to taste the rainbow in California. Mm-hmm. I guess because of the contents of what's in it.
Yeah, you got titanium and so a couple other products. But however, those products are poisonous. They can cause cancer, and those chemicals are also in paint as well.
Wow.
And
in paint?
Yeah, in paint, wow. Actual paint. And so you gotta wonder. Come on now, like I guess you look on the back of these ingredients, and it'll let you know what's in it. And you also see that a lot of our foods now contains bioengineered products, and they use a lot of these chemicals to get the color to change. Like how are you going to get a green color? How are you going to get a red color? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They use that for that. And these chemicals cannot break down and process in our body. Our body is it's a living organism. It's supposed to break down the things. It's supposed to, it's not meant for stuff just to sit in our body and not being able to break down. So now we're consuming chemicals that can't even break down in our body and are harmful and cancerous as well. So,
but it was thank you guys for watching another show. You got some more?
Nope, that's all I got.
Yeah, we love you guys so much, man. Let me read the scripture before we go. What for the dream of the week? Acts 2:17. And it shall come to pass in the last days, says God, that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your young men shall see visions. Your old man shall dream dreams. God bless y'all.
Hello, saints. I wanted to share the revelation I had on the 14th of April, 2013. Lo and behold, as I slept, I saw what seemed to be the rapture, and there was chaos everywhere. People were disorganized. There was no food. People were waiting for the mark of the beast. I even saw a pastor, a popular pastor, who was left behind after the rapture. And I asked him, in that dream specifically, why are you left behind? He said to me, because I preached on self. I did not preach the message that God gave me to preach. I tried to hype up the crowd rather than preaching the gospel message. Saints, this is a warning to the end time church. We need to sit up and wake up. God is more than just money. God is real. We need to go back to teaching the fundamentals of the gospel, which is salvation of souls through Jesus Christ. The rapture is real. The book of Matthew 24 talks about that day, the glorious appearing of the Lord Jesus Christ. Are you ready for that day? When I got up from my revelation, I opened to the book of Lamentations, chapter 2, verse 14. And I found myself reading something similar to the dream. It said, your prophets have said so many foolish things, false to the core. They did not try to hold you back from exile by pointing out your sins. Instead, they painted false pictures, filling you with false hope. This is a wake-up call to pastors all around the world. We need to get back to the gospel message. Jesus is coming back again.